On our wedding day, my wife, Sophia Hayes, entered a religious order. When she appeared in a religious habit, the substitute who looked 70 or 80% like me suddenly stabbed his face with a knife, tearing at his skin while prostrating himself before me. "Ethan Sterling, I've ruined my face. Please don't punish me anymore, okay? I'll leave this city and never appear before Sophia again. I promise I won't seduce her. Please let me go. Please don't break my legs, it hurts too much, and please don't kill my parents, okay? Woo-woo, I was wrong." Sophia Hayes's face changed dramatically, and she immediately announced she was canceling our engagement, broke my legs, and locked me in an iron cage. She made me watch my parents jump to their death after going bankrupt, and made me see my sister dismembered and fed to the mastiffs. Finally, bored, she threw me into the remote wilderness. In the helicopter, the cable snapped, and I fell to my death on the spot. Only then did she panic. When she found me, I had already become a putrid, rotting mass of flesh. Sophia Hayes, as you wished. I learned my lesson. I will never speak again. Trembling all over, I crawled out of the iron cage just as a sound came from Sophia Hayes's meditation chapel. Peering through the slightly ajar door, I clearly saw David Sterling gripping her waist. A lewd smile played on the woman's lips as she giggled. I felt as if struck by lightning, my expression one of disbelief. A month ago, at our wedding ceremony, I had waited, full of anticipation, but instead, I received news that my fiancé had entered a religious order. She said, "This humble nun has severed all worldly ties." She told me she had resolved to devote herself to God, with no worldly distractions left. Amidst my astonishment, David Sterling knelt and slashed his face, begging me in terror, pushing the wedding banquet to a climax. He orchestrated the whole farce, yet she believed it implicitly, her face full of disgust. She said, "Ethan Sterling, I already agreed to marry you. Why would you still do this to David? He's just a pathetic substitute. I was the one who forced him to stay by my side. You are malicious and vile. I must teach you a lesson today." In a fit of anger, she announced the cancellation of our marriage, broke my legs, and threw me into an iron cage. She said it was a punishment for me. "Mr. Sterling, Miss has revoked your punishment. This wheelchair has been prepared for you." The attendant's voice reached my ears. I snapped back to reality, large tears rolling to the ground. So, she wasn't truly devout, all of this was just so she could remain pure/dedicated to David Sterling. And this so-called punishment, it must have been to vent David Sterling's anger, right? Within a month, my legs were festering and oozing pus, my lower body rotten and foul-smelling, but she paid no heed, instead coupling with someone in the meditation chapel. I gave a bitter laugh. I would be crippled for the rest of my life. She knew perfectly well that I was an outdoor adventure blogger, and breaking my legs so I could no longer participate in reality shows was essentially taking my life. Yet she still did it. Sophia Hayes, how cruel your heart is. After the attendants washed me and placed me in the wheelchair, Sophia Hayes was already sitting on the sofa waiting for me. My rotting legs were now covered by a brand new suit, showing no trace of injury. Seeing that I didn't speak, still wearing that defiant, cold expression, Sophia Hayes frowned, stood up, and kicked my calf. "What? Still sulking? I won't hold what you did to David against you anymore. A month of punishment is enough. From now on, just live properly here at the Hayes mansion." "Ethan Sterling, speak up. Why are you looking at me with such hatred? Haven't you had enough of the iron cage?" My pupils suddenly constricted. The words iron cage were like a nightmare. My lips pale, I immediately dropped to my knees before Sophia Hayes with a thud, prostrating myself repeatedly. "Don't punish me, please, I was wrong. The master's religious habit is dirty, let your servant clean it with my mouth." During the month I was locked in the iron cage, David Sterling fed me mastiff excrement every day, forcing me to lick filth. If I refused, he would tighten wire around my rotting legs. That taste, that feeling, I never wanted to endure it again. I numbly extended my tongue to lick the dirt on her religious habit, but Sophia Hayes flinched back as if startled. "Ethan Sterling, are you sick? Is putting on this act interesting?" Her gaze fell upon the dirt on the red religious habit, and she paused. Then, as if remembering something, She kicked me away, her eyes filled with disgust. Enough. Just because I didn't help the Sterling group, you're trying to provoke me like this? My face was pale, my eyes numbly fixed on her. Was using my legs to punish me your goal? I understood. But if only she was willing to help my parents, then all this would be worth it. A hint of reluctance flashed in her eyes, but she was quickly distracted by David Sterling's cry of pain. "Ah, my leg hurts so much, Sophia, you are a nun now, you absolutely must not do evil deeds, nor take a life. Even if brother intentionally broke my leg, it can still be healed, don't blame him." David Sterling emerged from the room, leaning against the wall. Sophia Hayes's expression instantly turned cold. She gritted her teeth. "Kneel." I knelt heavily, the pain in my legs piercing. Sophia Hayes believed in God, saying that as long as I sincerely prayed for David Sterling for 49 days of prayer and penance, she would forgive all my mistakes. She made me kneel in the chapel without food or water. That night, starving, I couldn't bear it anymore and contacted my father's former subordinates. But instead of the bread I waited for to fill my stomach, I received a slap from Sophia Hayes. Her pupils were full of fury as she squatted down and grabbed my throat. "Wretch, you dared to harm David?" I trembled all over, my body shaking with terror. "I'm sorry, I was wrong, I'll do anything you want." I bowed my head and prostrated myself on the ground submissively, my head hitting the floor with a buzzing sound. "Enough, Ethan Sterling, who are you putting on this act for?" She seemed utterly enraged. "You secretly contacted your father's former subordinates, claimed you and David had reconciled, and even sent him a dirty piece of bread to eat, insulting him. As a result, David ate it and was immediately poisoned." I froze, a dry voice escaping my lips. "I didn't." Still arguing? Another punch landed. Seeing her look of disgust, I suddenly blurted out, as if possessed, "Sophia Hayes, does God know about your devotion to David Sterling?" She looked at me in shock, then seemed utterly provoked. I immediately lowered my head in fright, numbly beginning to slap myself. Sophia Hayes scoffed. "Don't you like slapping yourself? Make him kneel outside David's hospital room and slap himself." The attendants prepared to help me into a wheelchair, but Sophia Hayes interrupted. "No wheelchair, make him crawl. Compared to the leg breaking he suffered, what is this suffering? God is merciful. Since you inflicted it upon him, you should naturally pay for it." I paused in my slapping motion, my heart tightening. So that's what she thought of me. So be it. I slapped myself like a madman, with such force that my face quickly became bloody and swollen, like a pig's head. As I crawled, the flesh on my limbs became increasingly raw and festering. Outside the downtown city hospital, passing nurses were discussing how the eldest daughter of the Hayes family, enraged for her beloved, had hired famous doctors from home and abroad just to treat David Sterling for food poisoning. And I knelt outside the hospital room, unnoticed. A burst of laughter came from above. I looked up, only to see the seriously ill David Sterling grinning. "I just put on a show for Sophia, and she got so worried. What about you? You haven't eaten a bite since you got out of the iron cage, have you?" He waved a piece of bread in his hand, mocking me. "Beg me, bark like a dog, and I'll give you some. Woof woof woof." I numbly prostrated myself on the ground, sticking out my tongue and panting like a dog. This undoubtedly pleased him. David Sterling crushed it with his foot and then kicked it towards me as if bestowing a gift. I ravenously stuffed the dirty piece of bread into my mouth. "Thank you, master, for the reward." I lay there humbly. "Don't rush, there's more to see." "I'll reward you by letting you watch these 2 videos." He squatted down with malicious glee, and I saw in the video a familiar couple, their faces filled with despair, leaping from the top floor. "Ah!" I suddenly shrieked, my voice exploding. The ones who had jumped to their death were my parents. His eyes were filled with venomous hatred. They were really good to you, trying every possible way to save you. What a pity! Sophia was prepared. She directly destroyed their business, they went bankrupt, and their son disappeared, so they jumped. Heh. He stared at me mockingly, but for the first time in my life, I grabbed his collar with all my strength. My eyes reflected a savage glare. David Sterling, they were your parents too. They treated you well. Don't you have a heart? My eyes were splitting with rage. David Sterling wore a cruel, mocking expression. Parents? Do they even deserve the title? Their eyes were only on you, their good son. You should blame yourself the most. If you had died, I wouldn't have touched them. You don't know yet, do you? All of this was done by your fiancée herself. You pathetic wretch, your parents' remains are already stinking by now. How could you eat that bread? A sickly sweetness filled my throat, making me feel like vomiting. I collapsed wretchedly onto the ground, but David Sterling ogged cruelly, his smile sending shivers down my spine. As if suddenly remembering something, my voice trembled. What did you do to my sister? David Sterling directly played an audio clip, and my mind went blank instantly. Brother, help! Don't do this. Emily Sterling was my sister, not yet 12 years old, but in that audio clip, I heard her painful moans and cries. I looked up frantically, hoping against hope, at David Sterling. Please, where is she? You've already killed Mom and Dad. Can you please leave my sister for me? Trembling all over, tears of grief and anger poured from my eyes. I dared not vent my fury at him. I hadn't even fully processed the blow of my parents' death. I couldn't lose my only sister too. I admit my mistake. The little dog knows he was wrong. Please, master, spare me and my sister. I will absolutely never compete with you for Sophia again. The position of Sterling Group heir that you want, and the shares, I can give you everything. I spoke incoherently, wishing I could tear out my heart, just begging him to let her go. But David Sterling cruelly uttered a single sentence. Too late. Ethan Sterling, Emily Sterling kept calling your name when she died, see? She was disobedient, so I had people cut her into pieces and feed her to the mastiffs. The excrement you ate a few days ago, that was your sister. My heart felt as if it were caught in a large net, tightening incessantly. I felt as if I had instantly lost the courage to breathe, every inch of my chest aching. My mind was filled with the scattered fragments on David Sterling's phone. My sister, Emily Sterling, had been completely devoured by the mastiffs. His expression was venomous, as if enjoying it. You don't know yet, do you? All of this was because Sophia wanted to vent her anger for me. I howled in despair. With strength I didn't know I had, I grabbed him by the throat. My eyes were bloodshot. I'll kill you, and make you pay for their lives. The cold air pierced my lungs, causing a strange pain. But I was beyond caring. When David Sterling's eyes rolled back from being choked, it alarmed the nearby medical staff, who screamed, "Murder!" Sophia Hayes, wearing her religious habit and smelling of incense, rushed to the scene. Her sharp nails dug into my cheek, her face contorted with boundless fury. Ethan Sterling, have you gone so mad now? I told you to come here to apologize to David. Is this how you apologize? You're just as senseless as your parents. David Sterling smirked triumphantly at me, seemingly mocking my overestimation of my own strength. I suddenly remembered how he used to gain our parents' affection this way. Whenever I showed the slightest dissatisfaction, my parents would blame me for his sake. But now, David Sterling had killed them for his own selfish reasons. I rose in agony, breaking free from the guard's grip, my voice dry. Sophia Hayes, my parents, and my sister, you're the one who harmed them? Sophia Hayes, usually embodying piety, her eyes flickered. She explained, your uncle and aunt's matter was just an accident. As for Emily, I just had someone teach her a lesson, who knew she couldn't handle it. What a convenient accident. A sharp pain bloomed in my chest, my throat tightening. The next second, David Sterling lunged at me. Brother, I know you're sad, but you still have me. You can't give up. He clung tightly to my body, seizing the opportunity to stab a knife blade into my injured leg. He whispered in my ear, useless. Watching your parents and sister die without being able to fight back, that feeling must be terrible, right? If I were you, I would have wished I were dead already. My body stiffened, my eyes erupting with furious anger. He did it on purpose. Why? My parents and sister were so good to him. I lost control and slapped him across the face. My eyes wide, my mouth open, but I couldn't utter a single word. It turns out a person can lose the ability to speak when enraged to the extreme. David Sterling seemed prepared, covering his face, looking deeply hurt. Sophia Hayes shielded him, roaring, "Ethan Sterling, I see now you were just pretending to be well-behaved." Her voice was icy cold. "How could you be so malicious? My investigation was right after all. You've always been bullying David. Ethan Sterling, I'm telling you, the person I truly love now is him. He is not your substitute. Stop bullying him. I was even planning to give the Sterling group back to you, and you come back and immediately target David? Who gave you the guts?" David Sterling looked helpless, pleading on my behalf. "Sophia, he is my brother after all. Mom and Dad and Emily. He's been locked up for a month, it's understandable he feels resentful." I stood there blankly, finding their words extraordinarily grating. Unexpectedly, hearing this, Sophia Hayes became even angrier. "Guards! Throw him onto the island!" I obediently followed the guards. My unusual compliance startled Sophia Hayes. She apparently hadn't expected me not to resist. She spoke a rare gentle word. "Ethan Sterling, stop acting. The Sterling Group matter is indeed related to me, but I'm already trying to fix things. After this punishment, I will completely forgive you and we will live together properly. Don't worry, I will hold another wedding ceremony with you." I found it ironic. She had indulged David Sterling in killing my parents and sister, and now she wanted to marry me? That night, the guards threw me onto an island. My leg bones were completely broken, and I could no longer stand. My experience as a wilderness survival expert allowed me to survive until the 7th day. As I was about to die, Sophia Hayes appeared. In the dappled light, she squatted down. I could only see the prayer beads on her wrist. "Ethan Sterling, as long as you apologize to David, I'll take you out of here." As she spoke, she touched my body. "Why are you so thin? And how did your legs get injured so badly?" I recoiled from her touch, a mocking smile on my lips. All of this was her doing, and she was pretending not to know? Catching sight of the suggestive marks not concealed by her religious habit, I finally couldn't help but retort, "You claim to believe in God. Don't you find it ironic, having sex with David Sterling while wearing a religious habit?" Sophia Hayes's expression changed. "I thought you had learned your lesson, but you're still so sharp-tongued. It seems your leg injury is just an act." David Sterling, behind her, chimed in, "Sophia, I think brother likes this island. He's always loved outdoor adventure and survival. Uncle and aunt died tragic accidents, and he can still play around?" Sophia Hayes erupted in a furious tirade. Seeing that I showed no sign of repentance, Sophia Hayes angrily forced me onto a helicopter and flew to a certain remote wilderness. "Aren't you an adventure blogger? Perfect. I've signed you up for a reality show, lasting 3 months. Throw him out," Sophia Hayes said coldly. Without warning, without preparation, I was thrown from the high altitude. David Sterling blocked Sophia Hayes's view with his body and cut the cable. I gave a bitter laugh and looked at the woman I had loved for so many years. To my surprise, I saw her willingly shed her religious habit and roll around with David Sterling. My heart died completely. My parents and sister were gone, so I might as well go down and join them. Watching the backs of that disgusting couple entangled together, I felt nothing but absurdity. Everything from the past flashed before my eyes like a slideshow. I laughed bitterly. Suddenly, I screamed hysterically at them. "Sophia Hayes, I hate you. If only I had never met you in this life." As the words fell, the cable, unable to bear my weight, began to fray and snap. At the same time, Sophia Hayes finally bothered to turn back and spare me a glance. But that one look made her eyes widen in terror. "Ethan Sterling." "No!" Her plain white religious habit instantly slipped off, but Sophia Hayes no longer cared about anything else. She frantically ordered her subordinates to make an emergency landing. "Search! If you don't find him, none of you will work anymore." Sophia Hayes's voice was hoarse. An inexplicable sense of panic surged within her, the premonition in her heart growing stronger. Her subordinates scattered to search. She sat in the helicopter, waiting. David Sterling rubbed against her, but she pushed him away ruthlessly. Get away, I'm not interested anymore. That day, Sophia Hayes had people search for 24 hours, but no one found a trace of Ethan Sterling. David Sterling came with a fabricated explanation from the show's crew, saying that Ethan Sterling had already entered the filming stage and hoping she would cooperate. Only then did Sophia Hayes withdraw from the remote wilderness, half believing him. Brother must have learned his lesson and is focusing on filming. Sophia, don't disturb him. Isn't a punishment for brother exactly what you wanted? Sophia Hayes breathed a sigh of relief. But she didn't know that this time Ethan Sterling had truly learned his lesson. 3 months later. What did you say? Sophia Hayes trembled all over, her body even shaking uncontrollably. President Hayes, Mr. Ethan Sterling was not found. That is a remote wilderness, even healthy people struggle to survive there, let alone someone with broken legs. And he was due to a high-altitude fall, most likely. He's gone. Sophia Hayes's expression was one of unconcealed panic. Thinking of Ethan Sterling's bitter laugh earlier, she suddenly felt a bad premonition deep down. Search! Go and search now! I want all information about Ethan Sterling from the past 3 months. She quickly reacted and immediately gave orders. Although the subordinates were confused, they followed instructions. Not long after, a blue folder containing several photos was presented to Sophia Hayes, the head of Hayes Corporation. Sophia Hayes, who always cared about her image, suddenly let out a few heavy, uncontrolled breaths. She awkwardly opened the folder. When her eyes fell upon the words double-leg disability, her pupils suddenly constricted. She recoiled as if burned. She frantically swept everything off the desk, roaring, "How dare you handle things like this? How dare you present such fake news to me? Didn't you hear me say I wanted all the real information about Ethan Sterling? I want to know everything about him, not this fabricated entertainment news." The assistant was somewhat bewildered, his expression fearful. President Hayes, this information is all true. Mr. Ethan Sterling passed away 3 months ago, and his remains are missing. Because Mr. Sterling was forced to sign a waiver accepting all consequences before being thrown into the remote wilderness, the show crew was unaffected. This show is also already online. After Mr. Sterling's death, your husband's brother, David Sterling, took his place and participated. The show is quite popular now. After saying this, the assistant added in his heart that no one cared about Ethan Sterling's death. Sophia Hayes, in her professional suit, stared at him in astonishment, as if unable to believe it. He's dead? How is that possible? Sophia Hayes couldn't believe Ethan Sterling was dead. In her eyes, someone as wicked as Ethan Sterling would surely fit the saying, "A scourge lives for 1,000 years." But the assistant told her it was true. Sophia Hayes took a deep breath, regaining her calm demeanor, and sat back down in her chair. She ordered coldly, "This information is false. Continue searching. I want him alive, or his body dead." She seemed convinced that Ethan Sterling wasn't dead. He must be deliberately throwing a tantrum, angry about her entering a religious order and ruining the wedding. Ethan Sterling consumed Sophia Hayes's entire focus. A strong sense of guilt suddenly washed over her. She truly had done wrong. Although the Sterling group had been given back to David, she and Ethan Sterling still lacked a grand wedding ceremony. So be it. Once she coaxed him back, she would arrange another one. Just then, the secretary's voice came from outside, blocking someone. "Mr. Sterling, you cannot enter without President Hayes's permission." Sophia Hayes's face immediately turned cold. She snapped at the assistant, "Get out! I told you he's not dead. If you bring me such news again, you'll be fired." The assistant looked shocked but quickly gathered everything and left. "Let him in. You don't need to block him anymore." Sophia Hayes called out loudly, her voice calm. The door was pushed open, but Sophia Hayes froze at the sight of the person who appeared. "Why are you here?" "Sophia, it's your birthday today. I came specifically to wish you well. Look, I went to the temple just to get you this bracelet. You'll surely like it. David Sterling opened the box in his hand, revealing a string of amber-colored prayer beads. He looked excited. Sophia Hayes's expression softened somewhat, but her thoughts were not on him at the moment. She gave a perfunctory reply. Thank you, I like it very much. By the way, have you seen your brother these past few days? David Sterling's expression froze for a moment but was quickly concealed. My brother, he's always out on adventure trips. He probably won't be back anytime soon. Didn't you even sign him up for a show before? Sophia Hayes's heart tightened inexplicably, her fingers clenching. How did I hear he's dead? David Sterling immediately said loudly, who said that? No body was found at all. Brother is definitely just throwing a tantrum. He's probably secretly gone on another adventure. Sophia, don't worry about him, today's your birthday. She felt a sense of relief. David Sterling couldn't possibly lie to her, could he? A glimmer of anticipation flickered in her eyes. And today was her birthday. In the past, no matter how busy Ethan Sterling was, he would always make time to celebrate her birthday, until later, when the Sterling group gradually declined. Their relationship drifted further and further apart. During the years Ethan Sterling studied abroad, she, unable to bear the loneliness, found David to be a substitute. For David Sterling's sake, she even forced the Sterling family to acknowledge this illegitimate son. For a time, she and Ethan Sterling didn't have a good relationship, but the bond of growing up together wasn't so easily broken. But Sophia Hayes waited all day. She even specially ordered a cake and sat in the living room until late into the night, but my figure never appeared. If Ethan comes back from an adventure trip far away and doesn't have time to buy a cake, he'll definitely feel guilty. If I buy the cake and wait for him to come back, won't he be deeply moved? A smile played on her lips, but the person never appeared. Sophia Hayes's face turned completely dark. As dawn broke, the assistant brought her news. President Hayes, Mr. Ethan Sterling's remains have been found. Sophia Hayes was stunned, unable to believe her ears for a moment. What did you say? Remains? She laughed angrily. Robert, you've been with me for 5 or 6 years, haven't you? Don't you understand what should be said and what shouldn't? Ethan Sterling is just missing. Who gave you the nerve to lie to me? The assistant knelt down in terror, his shoulders trembling continuously. President Hayes, I wouldn't dare lie to you. It's true. You personally threw Mr. Ethan Sterling into the remote wilderness, and on the 3rd day, he disappeared. Because it's a remote wilderness, the show crew only reported it to the police and used a drone to confirm his death. This news, everyone knows it. The assistant looked as if facing death, his voice trembling. Sophia Hayes was stunned for a long time before finally reacting. Her voice was incredibly calm, as if on the verge of madness. She said numbly, why didn't I know this news before? Suddenly, she remembered that 3 months ago, the assistant had tried to tell her, but she had been furious then and dismissed him without looking at anything. She unconsciously fiddled with the prayer beads on her wrist, a sign of her tension. If Ethan Sterling is really dead, why hasn't there been any news from the Sterling family? The assistant's shoulder trembled again. He looked up, confused and heartbroken, and replied, have you forgotten? The Sterling elders jumped to their death after going bankrupt, and Emily Sterling also disappeared after being unable to bear the humiliation. You personally ordered all of this. The remaining 3 members of the Sterling family, 2 dead, 1 missing. Sophia Hayes was struck as if by lightning. The prayer beads snapped, scattering across the floor. When Sophia Hayes saw me again, I had become a pile of rotting flesh. Putrid, foul-smelling, the body bloated, with bones visible. I had finally become well-behaved, so well-behaved that I would never speak again. Sophia Hayes, are you satisfied with this outcome? Sophia Hayes stared intently at the pile of rotting flesh, seemingly not noticing the stench in the air. Her face was extremely pale. She frantically urged the forensic expert beside her. Are the results ready? Are you sure it's Ethan Sterling? Because I had been dead for a long time, my body had undergone bloating, my remains were unrecognizable, and no one could identify me. Soon, the results came out. President Hayes, the body has been confirmed. It is him. At that moment, Sophia Hayes's mood plummeted. She even wanted to scream in terror. How could it be? The person she had grown up with, how could he die like this? She had only been punishing the disobedient him, how could he be so foolish as to punish himself with death? How dare he? Sophia Hayes bit her lip in agony until it bled. After the identification, the professional staff continued to report to Sophia Hayes. The cause of death is a high-altitude fall, with all bones shattered. However, the fractures in the leg bones are older. We estimate that the deceased's legs were broken earlier, which likely contributed to his inability to survive. Sophia Hayes looked up in horror, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Leg bones? She had instructed her subordinates to teach him a lesson. But hadn't that been treated long ago? How could it be? Sophia Hayes couldn't believe it. She had changed doctors several times, but the results were all the same. Sophia Hayes stumbled towards the pile of rotting flesh, feeling as if her heart was breaking. She wept loudly, holding my remains tightly. It's my fault. I killed you. Ethan, I've come to find you. Can you open your eyes and look at me? I said we would have another wedding. How could you die and leave me like this? It wasn't until my shattered body was placed in the black and gold coffin, and Sophia Hayes knelt numbly in the wake for a day and a night, that she finally understood that I was truly dead. The withdrawal hit her so suddenly. A severe pain surged belatedly in her heart. Many people attended my funeral, mostly friends and acquaintances from my parents' business circles. They whispered amongst themselves. Did you hear she's the one who killed the Sterling family, all 4 of them? Doesn't look like it. That's right, it's her. Beautiful but vicious. She and that illegitimate son of the Sterling family wiped out the entire family. Now she's holding a funeral for Ethan Sterling, probably hoping to completely seize the Sterling family's foundation and connections. Bah! Shameless! Sophia Hayes, she's just as shameless as David Sterling. Suddenly, Sophia Hayes called out to them, her eyes incredibly cold. What nonsense are you spouting? Seeing this, those people immediately shouted in disdain. It's true! All Sophia Hayes wanted was to stand up for that illegitimate son. We're not afraid of you. Didn't you deliberately suppress the Sterling family for David Sterling, and even force them to jump to their death? Emily Sterling was humiliated and dismembered. Ethan Sterling was abused by you and thrown into the remote wilderness. This is known throughout upper-class society. What are you pretending to be ignorant for? Sophia Hayes lunged at those people, fighting them like a madwoman. Fortunately, David Sterling arrived in time. After the doctor injected her with a sedative, she finally calmed down. Her first words upon waking were, "Is Ethan Sterling back?" After asking, she suddenly remembered that I was already dead. I watched Sophia Hayes cry over me, heartbroken. Her grief seemed genuine. But my heart felt nothing. I numbly touched myself. So it was true that after death, one loses all 5 senses. Sophia Hayes, I am dead. Why do you put on such a performance? Sophia, why are you grieving over that person? He was just a useless bully. This is all just his trick. David Sterling, using his usual tactics, nonchalantly slandered me. Sophia Hayes's numb, empty eyes suddenly flickered. She said she truly hoped that person was lying to her. But she didn't dare think about the truth. A hint of joy and triumph flickered in David Sterling's eyes. Sophia, he didn't even show up for your birthday. He probably didn't want to marry you at all. Mom and Dad are dead, Emily is missing, and he doesn't care at all. You don't need to care about a man like that. Sophia, how about I marry you? You've secured everything from the Sterling family for me. Now that I'm the head of the Sterling Group, I want to marry you. David Sterling looked at Sophia Hayes seriously. But this time, Sophia Hayes didn't blindly believe him. She finally realized something was wrong. Why had David Sterling never said a single good word about Ethan Sterling? She hesitated. Do you also think he was that unfilial? Of course. He never suffered since he was young. He must have prepared a some money long ago and wasn't willing to bear the risk of bankruptcy with his parents. A rich kid like him wouldn't understand the mindset of poor people. Sophia Hayes was incredulous. She finally saw clearly the calculation and scheming in David Sterling's eyes. The liar was the one by her side all along. She understood Ethan Sterling. Ethan Sterling cared about his family most. If he hadn't died, how could he possibly ignore his family? Speaking of which, I haven't asked you before, how did Ethan Sterling treat you in the past? David Sterling's reply was ambiguous. Sophia Hayes suddenly remembered. It turned out the appearance of David Sterling being terribly bullied in the past was something David Sterling had guided her to imagine. A trace of coldness flashed in her eyes. She casually found an excuse to dismiss him. I'm too tired. Let's talk about this another day. David Sterling was a little displeased but still reminded her, anyway, the Sterling and Hayes families have an engagement. Since my brother is dead, I am willing to fulfill the engagement for him. But Sophia Hayes didn't agree immediately. In the past, she would probably have agreed. But now that she had doubts, she didn't dare. My heart trembled. Many memories flashed through my mind. The Hayes and Sterling families had been engaged since we were young. Sophia Hayes and I had always known each other. But in my junior year of college, the family business declined, and I had to go abroad to find a way out. During the time I was away, my good brother, David Sterling, appeared by Sophia Hayes' side as a substitute. He deliberately guided Sophia Hayes to retaliate against the Sterling family's business and force my parents to acknowledge this illegitimate son. By the time I returned, things were already set. I had to use the engagement to beg Sophia Hayes to help the Sterling family, but that night she entered a religious order. Thinking of the past, my heart ached. When Sophia Hayes received all the truth, she completely broke down. The Sterling elders were forced to their death by her. Emily Sterling was humiliated and dismembered. And Ethan Sterling had actually died, his legs broken, wasted away in the remote wilderness. Yet she had ridiculously believed that he was pretending, acting. Even his death, she thought he was just playing missing. Sophia Hayes staggered back 2 steps in disbelief. The papers fell to the floor, leaving a hollow space in Sophia Hayes' heart. It turned out she had caused all of this. She suddenly remembered that to anger Ethan Sterling, she had specifically shaved her head and entered the religious order the day before the wedding. Thinking back now, how cruel she had been. She always thought he didn't love her, but the request to marry was something he had begged for, sacrificing his dignity and pride. But what had she done? She had personally extinguished Ethan Sterling's hope, made him suffer unbearably, and she had killed his family, leaving him to die in despair in the remote wilderness. No wonder his eyes had been so weak and pale. He had actually believed it was her doing. David Sterling, it was all you. Sophia Hayes' face contorted as she tore up all the papers in the office. In the chapel, the bald woman knelt devoutly before God, respectfully prostrating herself and praying. God above, your faithful servant is willing to dedicate her life to prayer and abstinence and donate her fortune, only asking for Ethan Sterling's soul to be at peace. I was somewhat stunned. I only heard Sophia Hayes continue muttering, Ethan, I'm sorry. Wait for me on the afterlife, I will avenge you, I will take all those bad people with me, and then, slowly atone. Don't disappear, okay? Her face was twisted and struggling, but the latter half of her sentence carried a hint of careful pleading. But Sophia Hayes, wasn't my biggest enemy you? You were the one who allowed all of this to happen. Tears of blood streamed down M.'s face. The day David Sterling inherited the Sterling Group, a bald woman in a religious habit walked into the Sterling Corporation building. Overnight, she acquired all of the Sterling Group's shares, successfully stripping David Sterling of his ownership. David Sterling stood up in panic, his face losing color. Sophia, what are you doing? You're trying to destroy me. Sophia Hayes' expression was calm, without joy or sorrow. She uttered a prayer, this is all fate. When she took David Sterling away for secret execution, David Sterling finally realized something was wrong. His face changed dramatically, and he struggled wildly, shouting, Sophia Hayes, you despicable woman, where are you taking me? I'm the last heir of the Sterling family. The Sterling and Hayes families are old families. How can you bear to see the Sterling family decline? Don't you love me? You despicable woman, you're not backing out, are you? David Sterling's face was filled with malice. Sophia Hayes paused. David Sterling's heart filled with joy. Sophia, listen to me. I was just speaking without thinking, Sophia Hayes spoke coldly. We're here. Only then did David Sterling realize he had been taken onto a helicopter. When the helicopter flew over a remote desert, he completely panicked. He looked at Sophia Hayes in terror. The suspicion in his heart made him unable to breathe. Throw him out. David Sterling's face turned pale. Seeing the guilt in Sophia Hayes's eyes, he finally understood. He immediately shouted frantically, Sophia Hayes, you bitch. You were the one who kept saying you wanted to teach him a lesson. Now you're putting on this sad act for that dead man? She was provoked. I wanted to teach him a lesson, but I didn't want him dead. You used my actions to kill the Sterling family, to kill Ethan Sterling. I will settle this score for him. Ha 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 ha, but he's dead. You didn't know, did you? At that time, on this helicopter, you and I were together, and he fell into a pile of flesh right then. David Sterling laughed wildly. Afterward, I even bribed the show crew to lie to you, and you actually fell for it like an idiot, only realizing something was wrong 3 months later. Sophia Hayes, your love came too late. Sophia Hayes's heart seized up, her face turning pale. So that was what happened. She was filled with pain. That day, David Sterling also died in the remote wilderness. After Sophia Hayes finished her investigation, her eyes were red-rimmed, and she sat alone all night. From then on, she controlled both the Hayes and Sterling corporations. She erected a tombstone for me and visited my grave annually on Memorial Day, wearing a religious habit. She never grew her hair long again, always remaining bald. She said she was remaining devoted to his memory, though no one knew who he was. She adopted a child for me and entrusted the Sterling family to that kind child. 3 years later, Sophia Hayes, wearing a religious habit, took her own life in the chapel. Before dying, she struggled to look at my portrait. Ethan, I am dying in atonement. Please, just see me, okay? There was no response. She died filled with regret. After her death, I never saw her either. The next day, when the attendant came to clean the chapel, they found her body. The media reported on this devoted female entrepreneur. Everyone discovered that she had written me 1358 love letters after my death. My name also became widely known. Everyone praised her devotion, but no one knew I had died because of her. Sophia Hayes, you will always owe me. You should be grateful I'm dead, otherwise I would have exacted terrifying revenge. End of text.